Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This, the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Bersatu is currently holding a Supreme Council party meeting tonight, chaired by Bersatu President and Acting Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. Now, Tun Dr. Mahathir and former Deputy President Mukhris Mahathir, however, were not invited to this event. And while there was no agenda given for tonight's emergency meeting, it has been reported that Bersatu will be discussing how the party can merge with UMNO. The other motion that is said will be finalised tonight is the sacking of Dr. Mahathir and his faction. Now, Sharaad, Bersatu is still continuing to take centre stage, dominating headlines today. Observers now waiting to see what the main contenders will do and its impact on the current government. What do you think?
Well, Melissa, we've had a conversation on this show about the debates within Bersatu and the different factions, what the stakes are. And we see its reverberations not just at the federal level, but also state level with the fall of Kuttan. And then, of course, we still have the continuing troubles in the state of Johor in the south. But beyond that, there is the larger, I think, question of stability and governance, which other observers are taking this conversation. They're taking the conversation to this other level and saying, well, okay, I mean, if this shift in allegiances, and we had, of course, the news of the Deputy Minister of Works resigning today as well. I think what we will have to contend with is the question of the stability of the next government, if this government in fact falls.
I think that's interesting. The Deputy Works Minister, Shahruddin Saleh, has resigned today, saying that he made, quote-unquote, a political mistake in supporting Perikatan Nasional. Now, the Sri Gading MP seemingly contradicted himself, though. He said that he remains a supporter of Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin and remains a Perikatan Nasional backbencher. That's what he said. But then again, we have reports that at 5:30 earlier today, he had gone to visit Tun Dr. Mahathir. So I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
Yeah, and in fact, if you follow social media, it was on Twitter, I think Tun Dr. Mahathir tweeting this out from his account of the meeting, some video of the appearance of the former Deputy Works Minister. Again, Melissa, you know, it's all kind of smoke and mirrors at this point in time in terms of where exactly will all this land in terms of allegiances. And of course, a lot of the conversations are about the numbers in Parliament. But if the move by the Sri Gading MP means that Perikatan Nasional has lost one MP on its side, as now it's held, this government has a majority of one, according to some calculations. The question is, even if Perikatan comes to power, how much will its majority be? And will it be sufficient to govern in a way that would be, keeping up with the kinds of reform agendas that they had? What will they be able to deliver with the slim majority that they have?
Will it be a stable government, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Indeed.
Well, let's move on to other news. Now, according to a report by SOCSO, job losses in the country have increased by 42% for the first quarter of 2020, this compared to the same period last year. And this year-on-year increase is expected to rise by 50 to 200% for each subsequent quarter of the year. Now, the SOCSO report also shows that more than 60% of job losses are among workers aged 40 and below, and that the areas that we see the highest job losses are in Selangor, followed by Kuala Lumpur, Johor, Kedah and Penang. Very troubling news indeed, Sharaad.
Yeah, because, you know, those areas are perhaps the much more industrialized areas of the country. Also, Melissa, we are getting reports of how each sector of the economy is dealing with the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and also the anticipated recession, a global one, not just local. We have the airline sector, you know, that's been in the news the last couple of days too. Expected losses or reorganization in Malindo, in AirAsia, all this there in the news as well. So very troubling, because the question is, what kind of social safety net is there for workers? I mean, you know, and how will they sustain themselves over the long period, considering that it's very unclear how long this recession, how deep this recession is going to be.
And I have to say, it's not just those who have lost their jobs. Even the ones who have jobs still are facing some kind of job pay cut or a reduction in their salary. So a Job Street survey found that more than a third of Malaysians have taken a pay cut. Some people have taken as high as a 30% pay cut. Now, the survey also found, this is according to Job Street, that 1 in 5 Malaysians lost their jobs since the MCO. And these are the more short-term contract workers and also in the lower salary range, which is troubling because, again, perhaps these are the people who may not have enough of a financial buffer to weather difficult times.
Yeah, and a long, drawn-out season of, either unemployment or underemployment. There are, silver linings, in the media reports, attempts by, my Adun, Rajiv Rishikar, in Petaling Jaya, in a recent report saying that he's got a scheme to help Malaysians find jobs in wet markets and earn salaries up to 2,000 ringgit a month. Yeah. So that's not, it's not a huge salary, but when you think about the opportunities for, especially working class Malaysians, it's interesting to see who's creating an impact by actually thinking about concrete programs for those who've lost jobs.
Well, we know that the Prime Minister said he will be announcing a short-term economic recovery plan tomorrow at 3 p.m. So you can watch that speech live on Astro AWANI Channel 501, or you can watch it on all our digital platforms. Now, we're going to take a quick break, but after this, we're going to be hearing from early childhood care practitioners and providers about the realities in reopening these centres post-MCO. So stay tuned to consider this.
Bayangkan pagi anda dengan pandangan dan perbincangan luar kota. Berita dan isu semasa yang wajib anda ketahui sebelum anda keluar rumah. Paparan terkini, kupasan mendalam. Kami temani anda di waktu pagi untuk hari yang lebih ceria dan produktif. Gigi Ahmad, Hafizi Azaman, Hakim Rahman, Hafizi Rosli dan Naila Huda. Semuanya di Awani Pagi.
Ketika ini dengan kesan penuh daripada insiden ini kepada ekonomi China masih sukar dijangka.
How big will the impact of the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, be felt on the Chinese economy?
Kalau diperkatakan M40 ini golongan yang paling banyak berbelanja sekali dalam ekonomi itu sendiri. Kerajaan perlu teruskan dasar strategi jangka masa pendek dan jangka sepanjang.
Kini berwajah baru.
Ini pula susulan khas pesawat Back Air.
Hello, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, with me, Sharaad Kuttan. Childcare centres, or TASCAs, across the country will now be allowed to resume operations, but they'll have to comply with strict guidelines to ensure hygiene and safe distancing practices are observed. And so concerns remain about safety measures to protect both children and minders. So tonight we're going to hear from early childhood care practitioners and providers about the realities in reopening these centres. Joining us on the show now, we have Sivanathan, committee member of the National Association of Early Childhood Care and Education Malaysia. And thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. I'd like to ask you what you've observed to have been the impact of the pandemic and the MCO so far on the childcare industry.
Well, the childcare industry is, based on my colleagues, and it's really experiencing a very hard time now, in the sense that, they have to close like every other businesses, and also, but the cost of running it is still ongoing process, like the rental and salaries of staff, and also now there's a major concern, as in some parents are not so in game of paying the fees simply because their children are not going to the care centers. So that's a big concern, because it's like, how do childcare operators sustain? How do they sustain it? Unless perhaps if there could be a financial bailout for them in these instances. because otherwise it's a task.
And can I ask you if most childcare centres have actually been asking for the payment even during this period? Has that been the general practice? And what is the situation in terms of a contract between the centres and the parents? Can parents volunteer to stop payment, or are they contractually bound to pay the care centres?
Okay, some centres have it written down, and some don't have it written down because no one expected such a pandemic to actually take place. So we need to relook at our care centres policies henceforth. And so, yes, of course, it's a choice parents have, but it's not a choice for the centre operators because their rental has to go on, and they need to pay their staff because the staff has bills to pay. So, the moving forward would be if there can be a conversation between the parents and the childcare providers, perhaps to see how best they can actually work towards this, so that there will be a mutual agreement between both parties. Because I do understand that some families have lost jobs as well,
right. And
so maintaining this the fees is a task. But then again, if they go back to work, and whether that child's place will still be secured in that childcare centre, now that's another question.
Do you have a sense of how many childcare centres have survived this MCO period and how many have closed as a consequence? Do you have any kind of industry level sense of the survival rate, as it were, of childcare centres?
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but from the communication of different care providers, many centres towards the East Coast have closed down. The exact numbers I don't know.
Okay. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit, Anne, about the design of the COVID-19 SOPs in allowing for childcare centres to reopen. Have these SOPs, can these SOPs be implemented well? Have they been has the design of it taken into consideration perhaps the realities of these childcare centre facilities and also the resources, of teachers, of minders of these centres?
I looked at the SOP yesterday. It actually came out on the 1st of June, and it has been revised 3 times. And the latest one looks very, very impressive, and it's very, very thoughtful. Now, can it be implemented? Definitely it can, but it involves a lot of training for the staff to see how they're going to be doing this, and then also, communicating with the families. It is stated there that, communication with the families is very, very important. So, yes, there's a lot of things that needs to be done. And then also it talks a lot about social distancing with children. Right. Now, that may be a task because, as we all know, children learn best when they're socially active. So how are we going to be doing this is that it needs to be, thought about, rethink, and perhaps, a rehearsal needs to be done with the staff itself, as in how are we going to be doing this? It's like how are children going to not to play in a playgroup? Right. So that's a very difficult situation. That's what I feel.
How do you even stop children from playing together, from hugging each other, from wanting to interact and touch? I don't know how we're going to teach very young children about social distancing skills, right?
And if I could just jump in here, not having any children myself, I just want to know: are you looking around the world for best practices? Are you do you see a model that you think Malaysia could emulate?
Okay. The national association that I'm speaking on behalf of, NAECCEM, we are connected worldwide, actually. So yes, we do exchange ideas from our colleagues from around the world. In fact, yesterday I was on this call about our children's rights in daycare centers and there are best practices that is happening, but it may not be applicable here because of the cultural beliefs that we all have. So a lot of my friends' programs, they're all doing it outdoors, and it's definitely not going to happen here because our playgrounds are still closed for children to actually go and play. So it all depends on the center. It all depends on the center operators and the teachers, and communicating with the families and to see how much do the children know about social distancing, because they cannot leave it to the to the staff at the centers. It has to start from home. You need to orientate your kids about what is social distancing, and you would need to actually wear a mask. You can't touch your friends. You can't go and hug your teachers. Yeah. And so it has to be a partnership, because otherwise it will just not work. And yes, it's going to be a very, very tough task. But I think children have gotten used to it to some extent, because if the grandparents or uncles or aunts do not live with them, I think they have been trained that you don't go and hug them. You don't go and, shake hands with them.
And very quickly, can I also interject? I want to ask you about children, especially children with special needs. You're also the Assistant Secretary for the National Association of Autism Malaysia. What challenges are you most concerned about for children with special needs in having them adapt to all these changes that the new SOP requires?
It's going to be a task, but with the right training, it will be possible. Number one, I would really think about social distancing is going to be a task for someone on the autism spectrum, because because they enjoy their space, and to confine them within a space is going to be a task. And not only that, if you were to actually confine some of them within a space that 6 feet requirement, because of that, they may experience meltdown, temper tantrums, and how are we going to, calm them down if we don't have enough staff? Right. And sometimes they need a bigger space to actually, take a nap and things like that. So is that 6 feet apart going to work or not? Right. So that may be something that the center operators need to actually think, really hard as to how are we going to accommodate them back in our system. Okay. And also the mental health of the staff. You need to ensure that they are physically ready, emotionally ready to cope with a different situation altogether. It's just not about the kids. It's about the families as well. When they actually go to work, are they going to be comfortable to leave the kids there? What is the guarantee that no one is going to touch their child, or their child is not going to touch anyone else? So these are all concerns, and these are all things that we should really think really, really hard. How are we going to handle this if a situation which is not to be practiced happens? Right.
And very good insights. Thank you so much for sharing them with us tonight. We appreciate your time on this. Now we're going to take a quick break, but more on childcare centres resuming operations in just a few minutes. So stay tuned to consider this.
Isra, apa benda Rancak TV ni?
Rancak TV ni adalah sebuah channel digital yang bernaung di bawah Astro AWANI.
Apa yang best sangat dengan Rancak TV ni?
Of course best, sebab dia ada macam-macam cerita. Dia ada cerita pasal isu-isu semasa, cerita pasal kesenian, cerita pasal hiburan, cerita pasal kecerdasan, cerita pasal sukan, cerita pasal travel, cerita pasal sejarah, fakta-fakta menarik. Dan mereka juga ada buat short film dan juga dokumentari. Dan yang paling penting, Rancak TV tak ada cerita pasal politik.
Wah, menarik tu. Kena bayar ke nak tengok konten-konten Rancak TV ni?
Tak payah bayar, satu sen pun tak payah keluar. Yang penting korang follow, like dan subscribe YouTube, Instagram, Facebook dan juga Twitter Rancak TV. InsyaAllah kehidupan anda akan menjadi lebih rancak selepas itu.
Kini News is now on Astro AWANI.
I'm sure we've all seen the dashcam video of the toddler surviving a high-speed crash.
Catch the latest news of the day.
Constantly under a lot of pressure.
Thank you for staying with Sharaad and I on Consider This. Let's continue our conversation about providing childcare centres providing childcare services in a time of COVID-19. Joining us on the line now, we have Noor Syahiza Muhammad, who is the founder of Blooming Tots House, which is a childcare centre in Shah Alam. Syahiza, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I'm wondering if most childcare centres have managed to survive this MCO period. What has been the situation with most childcare centres now that you've observed?
Hello, hi. Hello.
Yes, hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. So, what is the current situation? I mean, have you noticed that childcare centres have managed to survive the MCO period?
Okay. Quick for us operators. Yeah, there's a lot of new territory, unprecedented areas that we're in now. You know, we're not sure of a lot of things. But it is very exciting actually to actually enter this new challenge on this.
Syahiza, what has been the biggest challenge in reopening?
Okay, the biggest challenge I think is to make sure that our students, our kids, are really they're safe every time they enter our premises. We have to make sure that we follow the SOP that's been given to us by the government, and it's very comprehensive, the SOP. So it's really something that you have to make sure that, you know, the things that the kids have to go through, you know, is really, first of all, they've been away from school for 6 weeks. So it's like, you know, when you come back from a holiday, you know, you're having some sort of, a relaxed mood. You don't want to come to school and all that. So a lot of time when they come back from holiday, they need to be cuddled most of the time. So, you know.
So they want to show affection and all that.
Yeah. So, you know, we cannot actually practice that with them at the moment.
Okay.
So we have to make it. We have to be a bit more creative on our side.
Well, Syahiza, we're seeing video footage of children wearing hula hoops and using, toys to touch each other as opposed to physically hugging or playing with each other.
Yeah.
That's been a re-education for children in practicing safe distancing, yes?
Yes, because, you know, we have to make sure they understand. I mean, most of them understand that, you know, you cannot be able to be with your friends. You cannot be whispering to your friends and all that. So you have to use whatever tools that we have around the center that they're familiar with, like the hula hoops that you see, and those, you know, to actually be in touch with each other socially, you know, and most of them are together for many years. So these are some of the steps that we take.
Right.
And, you know.
Sorry if I could interrupt you for a minute. Have you found any parents expressing concerns about returning to school? I mean, they might be under pressure themselves, to bring their kids to school so they can go back to work. But have you had any significant level of people pulling their kids out of school, stopping the engagements because they are fearful of the possibility of infection?
Yes, that one, yes, we do have. Of course, I'm a parent myself, so I am very concerned, you know, if I'm going to let my child go out to school, because, you know, it's one of the things that we cannot do is go to a mass place, you know. So we have a few parents that very concerned about this, most of them, but we are we're very transparent with in communicating with our parents. We're very sound. We have nothing to hide, and we don't cut corners.
Well, I want to ask you about the cost of implementing all these SOPs. It means more space. It probably means that you can't have as many children in the same facilities that you once did. So the capacity to perhaps accept new enrollment. What is the stand on that, and how are we going to deal with the increasing cost of running a childcare centre?
That is definitely a challenge, you know, because we have a significant number of parents that pull out because of the concern and because everybody is also facing their own challenges, right? Especially financially. But, you know, life must go on. And parents need to go to work, and we need to provide them with, because we're in a service industry. So, you know, this is a hard time, but we are very blessed that we have a group of parents, and also my team is, you know, the whole idea is to actually, you know, have the hashtag say, kita jaga kita, you know. So you know, we are in this together. You know,
have you found it necessary to reach out to either your elected representative or through the association to government to lobby for support for for the industry? Do you think government could be doing much more for childcare centres and service providers like yourself?
In my personal opinion, there is a lot more areas that we can explore together. I believe what the government is doing is actually, hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I am breaking up there. Okay, I personally believe that they've given us quite a comprehensive SOP to follow. And of course, they have all those initiatives from the government, you know, they help us as small businesses and all that. I think that really helps. Okay. So, you know, everybody is embracing this new normal, and, you know, I think, yeah, we can do this together, and there's a lot more to explore and together, you know.
Well, Syahiza, a little bit earlier we spoke to Sivanathan, and she mentioned that, you know, there's a heavy burden placed on childcare providers, especially the minders, the teachers. They're going to need a lot of training and a lot of support. Have you had to retrain your staff? Have you had to have that conversation with your staff in how they are going to help observe all these SOPs?
Yes, we do. Okay, when the government announced that the MCO has been lifted and you have the restricted movement, right? So, of course, then we need to think about how to go about in this new environment. So we took some time to actually ready the school, and I think with the staff and all that, it's more than a week with the SOP alongside with that. And there's a lot of trial and error on our side to make sure that our school is very, very safe and all that. And you know, we're very confident now that our kids are safe. Inshallah, when they come in, we have already, if you see the little video that we made, you know, we show that to the parents. We tell the parents that, okay, this is how it's going to happen, and then we give all the steps and all that, you know. Right. A lot of training, yes, a lot of new things to be considered as well.
Thank you so much, Syahiza, for speaking with us tonight. That's all the time we have for you on this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Thank you so much for watching, and good night.